Welcome to the Local Farmer Podcast, where we invite you to join us on our farming journey. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or you're just getting started, we are here to learn and grow together. Our goal is to help encourage, inspire, and equip the local farmer. So let's grab our boots and let's dig in. All right, hey, welcome to the Local Farmer Podcast. My name is Brandon.
And I'm John.
And we're on location.
On location. We said we were going to do this.
Yeah, we're on location. This is our farm. And we wanted to do kind of something special, bringing you here, kind of seeing in the backdrop of what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. And honestly, trying to explain that we're not just joshing you. We're not just sitting here, faking it. Like,
it's a real place.
It's a real place. So we're out on location, and we're going to talk about a lot of things coming up with the fall coming up, and then goals that we have of what we wanted to achieve going into the fall, what's coming on property, and just things here and there, a little update. So before we dig in, John, tell them about our socials.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out on Spotify for audio. YouTube. We've done a couple of audio ones.
Yeah.
But now we're back. You can see our pretty faces and go from there. So
that's right.
And some clips and stuff.
Yeah, we're working on the podcast studio. Mm-hmm. You're working on the podcast studio.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much done, but
yeah,
we don't have HVAC in it yet, so it's kind of steamy in there. But
it's warm.
Yeah, but it feels great out here.
Feels great, and it's going into September right now.
Going into September. Usually we're still hot now. I think we're getting hot again next week. But we got a little.
We are actually. I looked at the weather.
I think it's a little teaser for fall.
I looked at the weather. Right now, we're looking at 85 as highs, 82, 85. Next week,
back in the
90, 95. So that's Tennessee weather, though.
Yeah.
Tennessee weather does that.
And I had a hoodie on this morning. I met with a farrier this morning.
Yeah.
Had a horse dropped a shoe, and it was definitely cold. I had to grab the hoodie out of the truck for that. But now, an hour or so later, and
the sun's up.
Hot.
We've been moving around. So, yeah. Well, cool. Hey, so, yeah, we're going to be talking about moving into the fall, moving into what we plan on doing. If this is your first episode listening to it, we encourage you to go back and follow the journey from the beginning. You'll hear a lot of consistent things that we talk about, mainly because, we're learning as we grow. We want you to grow with us. But, moving into the fall, we have 4 pigs on property now. We did have 5. We processed 1, which he's delicious.
He is. Despite what a lot of people had warned us about.
Yeah, and
should we talk about that?
We can because
a lot of people don't know about that. We didn't either. We had to be educated. But.
Yeah, so getting into pigs, one of the things that I read, watched, like podcasts and stuff like that, was you want to castrate your males. And, I thought that was mainly because just the breeding. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you don't need too many males in there, and it just makes things easier. But there's also a thing called boar taint, and that is where you haven't castrated a male, and because of that, leaving him intact, he basically will taint the meat because of just all the things. I don't know the terminology, so don't come for us for that. But the reality is, it's mixed reviews. Mm-hmm. That's what I kept reading about. It's like some people are like, it's a myth. And then some people are like, it's real. And it changes the flavor of the meat. And it's not good. So if Boris, our almost 700-pound male, had boar taint, then I think I like the taste of boar taint. You know what I'm saying? Like,
really good. So even the pork chops and stuff, I mean, of course, your sausage, it's got a spice in it.
It's flavored. But
even the pork chops, not an issue. It's good.
So have you had pork chops yet?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did
Yeah, they were
too.
great.
They were great.
Yeah, and so diving into that a little bit, I think we might have mentioned it on our update podcast a couple times ago, but talking to the processor that we took him to, it's not a myth, it's real.
Yeah.
However, he said it's not so much the flavor that it gives. He said it'll give a smell.
Yeah.
And so you want to cook it different ways. He said, but also
he said the smell was urine, right? Like it smelled like
pee,
urine. Yeah.
But didn't taste that way. He said it would smell that way. And a lot of people, once they smell that, which I would be one too, it's like, I'm not going to drink milk when it smells bad, you know?
Yeah.
Because smell bad means it tastes bad. So I don't know. But anyway, he said the way they'll process him at a little bit, I mean, like they won't force him. They would let him walk into the kill room and to not put that pressure on him. That usually that's when they get it. Right before they die, they get their adrenaline going. They're pumping, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll get. He said usually, even if they're intact, if they're able to calmly walk in and they're not under stress and they're not got their adrenaline up, they won't have a bore tank.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
There you go. I don't know.
Well, I will say the pork chops, we've had plenty of sausage at the house. And so we've been cooking sausage stuffed bell peppers. We've been cooking sausage for breakfast and things like that. Actually made a really good dish the other day, just, you know, putting a can of diced tomatoes, some sausage and some rice and some Worcestershire, like a few other things in there, just a little hodgepodge of stuff. It was great. And the pork chops were great as well. And I cooked those just on the grill, how I would cook a steak. Like I flavored it the same way. And it tasted great. I think you and I had talked about this, you know, when it comes right off the grill, cut it open and man, it was nice and tender.
Yeah. Yeah,
really good.
It's it's been surprise.
I had to go buy a freezer. Like I had to buy a freezer mainly because not only did I get, you know, meat from that, but a week later I got half a cow. So and that was, you know, on a waiting list and all that stuff. So it's not like I just went out and bought. No, it just came in at the same time, and so we had to go buy another freezer. So technically we have 3 freezers in my garage right now.
Well, we've got 3. One of them's a fridge freezer combo, but we got 2 actual deep freezers. But we had to go buy one too when Boris was coming because we were like, we're not going to have any place. So you took half of that meat.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 lambs processed and filled that thing right back up. So
you talk about having meat, like we've got it.
I know.
We've got it.
I'm like, well, I mean, we get to eating, I guess.
Well, Lindsay's like, my wife, she's like, maybe we need to go on this carnivore diet. I'm like, well, now's the time to do it, but let's not go through it. I will say I got, it's not one of our cows, but the most recent cow that I got, a lot of T-bone.
Yeah.
A lot more T-bone than normal. But anyway.
It could be the way they had it cut.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But anyway, just going back to learning, learning about why it's important to castrate, why it's important to, I'll say this too, the fact that we had a processor that educated us in that manner. I mean, that was something cool. That was really helpful of instead of someone just trying to get your money, and they know, hey, if we don't tell them everything, then they may not use it again. So, but I just think that our process with the processor was really good with them. So
yeah, and we're going in a little more in depth with our processors. I think you used when you got that cow, you used a different one. I used one I'd never used before for Boris because they could get him in immediately, and they worked with us and were great with that. And then we used a different one for the lamb, and so I think. And when we do this for our customers and for you guys and for our knowledge as well, is, there may be one that we use for pig and maybe one we use for cattle. Because we've used a processor in the past we really, really like, but we've experimented a little bit here and we ask a lot of questions. So because we're trying to help you guys out and ourselves as well when we have our meat done, we want to make sure we've got a premium product and it's packaged good and it's processed right.
Yeah, we know our main processor for beef.
Yeah.
Like we both agree.
We had that locked in.
Yeah, we both agree on it. We both had now two times for me, but like we've had past experiences with them and really enjoyed what that they've done because we've talked about this, how important a processor is. Before I ever bought a cow, I knew someone else that had bought a cow, and I just said, "Hey, did you like that?" And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "The most important thing is who is your processor." And that stuck with me because now we're going down this route that we've processed things before, but looking at it through a customer lens of saying, "Hey, we're doing all this work. We're putting in all this time and effort for our livestock. And if we don't pick the right processor, the customer doesn't know that."
Right.
They don't know that. They don't know that the processor was the one that made the mistake. It's the processor is an extension of our product. And so
Absolutely.
That's why it's pretty important to land on one that you trust.
Well, and me and you have went through that before.
Yeah, we did.
And it's very disheartening because I tried a new processor that had popped up and it was right down the road. And so we had a cow ready. And so we tried it and you bought half of it. And I mean, the meat tasted fine, but the packaging and the cuts were... I mean, they were pretty bad, but...
Yeah.
It
was all of it.
And the bad part about it was, as on our side, even if I, sold that cow, I want my product to be good. And I've put the love in taking care of that animal for that time and feeding it. And, it's so disheartening. Not only for the person spending the money on the beef, but I've spent all that time and then it's not high quality. And so that was just very disappointing. So probably a good thing, though, is a learning experience. Like, okay, you better really research your processor.
Yeah, I think that might have... because I went through that with you. Mm-hmm. You were the seller. I was the buyer. And I know you, and we have a relationship. This is all before this all happened, the farm. But I knew it wasn't you. Like, it wasn't like you're putting blame on the processor. I knew it wasn't. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't really even labeled. The cuts were weird. It was just...
Yeah, we had to Google some of the cuts to see what they were.
I had texted you. I said, "What is this cut?" And you're like, "I don't know." So this journey of looking at the fact that we have already walked through processing one of our, I would say, one of our products because it was on our property. We didn't see him from the beginning, but we did, see him to the end. And I would say we're looking pretty heavy now of who could step in as 1 to 2 of our processor, especially with pork, because that's what we have as of right now. But we're pretty landed on the beef side. But that's conversations that when you get into farming or producing a product that is going to go to a consumer or a customer, you got to do research on it. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. You got to shop around.
It's so hard to get an appointment now to some of the places. And you also need that as well, because if you have an animal that happened to get injured or, anything like that you need to cull out that maybe, the animal's unsellable. Like, I've run into that, not personally, but I've got a friend that had one that broke a leg. And so what do you do with that animal? You don't want to waste that animal. A cow with a broke leg is, it's not like you can, I guess you could, but so what's your options there? You either put it down and it go to waste, or you find a processor who'll take him in. And now with the wait time so long, it's good to have multiple options where maybe you could, squeak that in.
As of right now, in 2024, moving into September, here in Tennessee, you're looking at about a year wait to get in. And you can go ahead and put your name down for some spots. I haven't done this, you have, but is there money involved in that? Are you reserving a spot with money, or are you just putting your name down?
Not with ours. Not with any of the processors I know of, but other, outside our area, I don't know. I would assume maybe, because I've got no cows and 3 spots in 2025.
But you did that because our intentions, but you know that it's been such a long wait that you wanted to make sure your name was on the list.
And usually I've got other people, friends that have animals that say I were only able to fill 2 of those, I could call them and say, hey, I've got an extra one. And we could always get one processed in there. So that's the way I've handled that in the past. I've had other buddies do me that way. Like, hey, I've got an extra spot. You got one ready to process? Sure.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's that just goes to show the relationships between, people trying to help each other out, especially in the farming community and the local community, is just people understanding because you're walking through it and you understand it.
I want to back up on the boar tank just a second.
Go for it.
So if you do have a boar that is intact, what I want you to get out of our experience, what we found out is don't discard the animal because you're worried about the boar tank.
Yeah.
Because just make sure that he's loaded easy and try to make his life as easy and stress-free to the processor, and I think you'll be good. So I just hate to see an animal go to waste or, wither and die or whatever it is. I mean, at least we can, like with him, at least we can consume them and get something out of them. You know what I mean? So
we've talked in the past about animal husbandry.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that correctly? Okay. And our goals, we got an episode coming up with a gentleman that owns a zoo and plenty of animals, and our goal is to make that our main topic, is to talk about the care of that. But I watched a reel, whether this is can you trust the internet? I don't know, but this sounds right. It was a gentleman. He was at a market, a big box store, I think, and he was pointing out the different colorations, and he was pointing out a really bright red steak versus a lighter color, and he was talking about how this animal was stressed before he died.
You could tell from the color.
Yeah, that's what this video said. Believe it or not, whatever you want to believe. But there is truth into, I think, all the way up into the end.
Yeah.
And making sure that you've done everything you can, and your processor is one that respects that.
Yeah.
And so I think, as we're moving.
Speaking of
closer
processors and stress,
yeah,
I got a quick one for you.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
When I picked those lambs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said the ram attacked him in the kill room, like was ramming him.
Oh.
I said, yeah, he was rowdy.
He was that type of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
rowdy.
he's a sheep, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
he ain't gonna do nothing. Boy, he was fired up.
Yeah.
I've got video of him fighting with Aubrey, so that's humorous. I'll have to show you after. Anyway.
So, moving a little bit away from the processor conversation, but still on it a little bit, would be, you processed a cow recently, and then we've processed a pig that was on our property, and then more recently you processed 2 lambs.
Right.
2 sheep.
Actually,
sheep.
they
Sorry, they weren't lambs. You still would consider the meat lamb, but sheep. So things are moving, like as we talk about, there are animals that are going to customers. And our goal this fall is to bring on some cows. Yes. And there's some work to be done with that. Right before we move into talking about the cows and the stuff that we have to do with that, we have in a week, 2 weeks, we'll be bringing on 2 more pigs to the property. And, we have to decide, are we going to go with 2 females to potentially expand our breeding operation with that? Are we wanting to bring on 1 castrated male just to kind of feed him out?
It's like a feeder pig.
Yeah, and just go ahead and have some product that we can give. We have to make a decision on that, but we know we have 2 pigs that will be coming on property, and the breeding pen that we have right now, we're going to make a duplicate version of that next week, to be able to get our ladies off the property that they're on into some fresh areas, but not just for that reason. From what we've learned, we're looking at what we did versus how we know we can make it better. And so our goal is to make a better enclosure to turn around and fix the mistakes that we did too.
And then we'll redo the one. So we'll have to split them or bump them back and forth, and then continue to expand that larger, and get them more area, more pasture raised.
And we know we're going to need it.
Yeah.
And as we move into having piglets and being able to put them on pasture and all that stuff, we know that it's not going to be something that is a temporary thing. It's more or less, hey, we're going to need it. Might as well build it now.
Well, and we need to go in and reclaim that area that they were in.
Yeah.
We'll do some tractor work there, smooths it back out, seed it, boom, boom. It's, back better than before.
So we know we're building that infrastructure to bring on 2 more. But that's not the only reason. We were doing that before, but
it's in the plan.
It's in the plan. And so we're doing that, and we're turning around and looking at the future of cattle, fencing, even potential sheep. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the property moving into September, coming out of October now. Our goal from the very beginning, not very beginning, it moved to, because this is something I'm learning about too, John, is if you ask a lot of farmers, at least the videos and the podcasts that I'm watching, when people are getting into farming, they're going right into cattle. Like that's their mindset. We're going to do cattle. But then they find a different thing that they start focusing on and realizing, farming isn't just cattle.
Yeah.
Livestock farming is not just cattle. And for us, we're not saying that pork and pigs are going to be our main enterprise. It was just kind of a quicker thing to get into at first for us as we made a decision on cattle, because cattle prices are so high right now.
Yeah.
And the infrastructure would be a lot greater to build out for cows versus jumping right into pigs.
That's right. That's right. We needed more, obviously, more areas, bigger animal. They're a little higher when we first started here in the spring. And then, the turnaround. I mean, they're a lot more, in order to have a calf-cow operation, it takes more time. So with the pigs, it's a faster turnaround on breeding and growth. Same thing with the sheep, I think. And the sheep are a little easier to handle. When we loaded those, it was pretty easy to get in the field, and we lassoed them, and as soon as that thing went around their neck, they just laid over on their side.
Yeah.
So then we went over there and loosened that, and then literally carried them to the trailer. So that was a little better. We didn't have anything set up to herd them in at the time where we were at, and so that was another thing I was going to touch on too. I mean, we didn't have all these animals processed in order to, fill those freezers and be meat rich, I guess, but we did it more for, hey, let's try this, let's do this. So we know what that tastes like, what that's getting into. So we went ahead and processed some of these animals.
Everything is educational for us.
Absolutely. So literally, we can share it with everybody.
Literally, I'm going to pick up a product specifically for myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to this processor as, hey, I'm a potential customer of sending a product to you. Let's sit down and talk. And I did have a great conversation because one of the things, at least in our area, you would never have thought it getting into pork. When you think of pork, what is one of the main things you think of when it says, "Ooh, I can't wait to eat barbecue"? I'm gonna set you up again because that was wrong. One of the main things that I'm gonna eat is blank and eggs. Bacon. What is one of the things that all these processors are saying?
They don't cure bacon.
They don't cure bacon, and I would have never have thought that, bro. I would have thought, okay, if I was going to take a pig to a processor, they're going to give me bacon, ham, sausage, but also sausage links. Mm-hmm. I'm like thinking all these different things, but the more common thing around here with the processors is not to do that.
No, and I think there's some places that can cure that we take the hams and the bacon too, and then cure it. But that's another step.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to navigate that and figure that out.
Yeah.
To what because we want to offer that product. We want to offer that end product that
That's right.
everybody wants. So
it may involve us having to step in and do something after we maybe receive it to be able to help the customer. One of the things my wife had mentioned, she said, hey, if we can't find that, let's at least give them a resource to do it themselves. Like supply a how-to step guide to do it yourself. And, you know, I've watched videos where it's taken 7 days. I've watched others that take them much longer to cure bacon and the ham. But the point I'm making, though, is I would have not ever doing pigs. I would have never thought that would have been a challenge. And for us right now, it is, which is not a terrible thing. I mean, it's just, as someone that's never bought a pig before, like a whole pig, coming into that, that'll be a conversation that will be had up front, and that could be a potential deal breaker of like, oh, well, I really wanted bacon, I really wanted ham, and it's like, you're gonna get those things. It's just not going to be the way that you're used to it.
Yeah,
There's steps involved.
You can get it straight from the processor, the cuts.
The cuts is you are going to get the cuts.
But it's really hard. Like I've tried that before and, you know, done the whole, put it in the skillet with some brown sugar and so. And it's not bad, but it's not what you're used to.
But it tastes
out of the
more.
Package and put it, you know, it's.
Your bacon tastes more like ham that way, though.
It does. It absolutely does.
So just to make sure I'm clear on this, I'm not saying you're not getting bacon and ham from the processors that we would be using. You will be getting that. It's not cured.
Right.
So you're not getting that finished product. You have to do extra steps on top of that. So once again, like I said, educational. Like I would have never thought that like that would be something, an extra step that you would have to do. But you know, through this process of you saying, hey, we took those sheep off to really. Because you went to a different process or two with them of trying to, and we've done this a little intentional, not fully, but being able to check out different processors. And I was able to, when I picked up that half a cow, I saw their operation. I saw like what they were doing. I was able to walk in and actually see them processing. And the fact that any farm, any processor, anything like that that's willing to show you behind a curtain, that's a big deal.
It is.
And that's one thing on our property. We want to make sure that there is no curtain.
Right.
Like if you're wanting to buy from us, come on.
Yeah.
Like if you want to come check out our property once we get to that level, if you want to come check out the facility before you buy, because that's important.
You can see what the live animals, you know.
What they're eating, how they're treated, all those things. That's very important. And if someone doesn't want you to see any of that, and they're very like standoffish about that, that's a concern.
Yeah, you question that for sure.
Yeah. So fencing, a lot of different options when it comes to what we have and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it within the time frame. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, and I think we've went back and forth. I have on that cattle fence because we're also wanting to rotate the sheep in behind them because the sheep will eat what cattle will leave behind, and we're going to rotation. So it's not like we'll run the cow herd in there till they eat everything they want and then move on. We're going to roll them in, roll them out, roll them in, roll them out. So we're not damaging the land, and the sheep come in. They'll still have good, you know, like I don't know, sheep. They'll eat the weed before they'll eat grass. So sometimes, I mean, not as much as a goat, but.
They'll still have quality. That's
they
what you're
will.
saying.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't want anybody to be like, "Oh, well, you're letting the cows have everything and just the sheep pick up the crumbs." No,
there's
that's not
plenty
how
of
we're
property.
When we rotate, that'll be. I mean, we're talking about a day or two per area, and then rolling them out and rolling the sheep in behind them. You know, or that field may get a day of rest. Maybe they're, you know, hopefully when it's all done, there'll even be room to let that rest for 2-3 days before the sheep get into it. So we'll experiment with some of that, and we'll let you guys know how that works and what our actual rotation ends up being. That's all determined on your herd size, the grass growth, weather, so many factors involved.
Yeah.
Even a species of cattle or sheep that we end up with. But on the fencing, we went back and forth on what type, woven wire, high tensile. I think we kind of landed because of time and money doing the high tensile. The high tensile is not as much of a barrier because they could force their way through it, but high tensile with the electric shouldn't have an issue. We'll do a 5-wire high tensile. It's cheap, it's easy to put up, and it's very, very strong. It's easy to repair. The woven wire would be probably my favorite to do. However, it's a lot longer to put up. It's a lot more expensive. And then you're still going to run electric wire because you don't want them on it, rubbing it, different things like that. The sheep are sticking their heads through it and getting them stuck and different things. So, it's not like we're cheapscaping and using an inferior fence. A lot of people do it. A lot of people use it. I use it at my other places, primary fence. So, and it works.
Yeah. The amount of cattle that we're potentially looking at, do you want to talk about that, of how many? Because we're talking about putting basically, as of right now, one field in worth, and then build as we go.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's the other thing with that high tensile. It's easy to drop a cut line and bump that thing out.
Yeah.
Now the amount, we'll grow into that. I want to get some hoofs on dirt, and so, and ultimately, however many the land will hold safely without, we always got to keep the land in mind to not overuse it. So that'll determine a lot of the herd size as well.
And we've talked about this of financially, we may have to start with 2 to 4.
Yeah.
And grow into it. And as we make profit off of the pig side, take that money and put it back into to keep growing that. And that even goes into the type of product that we're wanting to give the customer would be a premium grass-fed, no antibiotics if possible, natural product. And in order to get to that product, we'll mostly, unfortunately, have to grow into that.
Yeah.
Because the cost of buying what we're wanting to dive right into may cost a lot more. So we may have to, because if you think about it, you go to auction or you go somewhere and you buy a mom cow with a calf. Okay. If the calf is just drinking from the mom, like if that's where the nutrients is coming from, then yeah, we could turn around and say that's one of our products, because as long as they haven't had any antibiotics or anything like that, then we can shift more towards, hey, that's one of our products. The mom, on the other hand, we don't know. I mean, it's the same thing of saying Boris, the huge pig. We can't really call that our product because we don't know what's been done to him, put in him, any of that stuff. So it's something that we'll have to grow into. That doesn't mean that we won't ever process the mom, sell the mom, but it's not going to be the product that we want in the long run.
Well, we may have 2 product lines, actually.
We may have to.
Because we've talked about we're not going to let a sick animal go sick. If we have to treat it, we will, but that'll always be an animal that either gets processed and sold as not the way we want, or so it'll be a little cheaper. So we got options for everybody, in our in the end game. Or that may get sold off. It just depends on what it is. Part of the reason those sheep we had processed is we bought a ram and a supposedly pregnant female. She was not pregnant. She came up open, and she's living with the ram, so she had time even after we brought them home to be pregnant. And she so whatever reason, she may be not capable. She, we don't know. We don't always know. Same thing with the cattle. You may have a heifer that doesn't take to the bull, and you don't want to go too many rounds feeding her and she's not producing for you. So she may get sold and or processed. So and we're doing our homework for you guys. A lot of it. I mean, we're just not going to throw out some black cows because that's what everybody uses. That's what I've raised before is Angus. But I'm diving into, I mean, all kinds of breeds to find what is the best health. We're looking at health. We're looking at meat. We're looking at lean. Anybody can. I mean, you can go anywhere and find. It's pretty easy to find a product that somebody's thrown a bunch of grain at and got a bunch of weight on them, fast and quick as cheap as possible, and process it. And that's meat, and it could taste great. All the above. But we want a product that's healthiest as it can be.
Yeah.
And so, and taste too. I mean, we are concerned about taste. Health, taste, that's what we're trying to bring. So I'm looking at different breeds, belted Galloways, even looking in Longhorns, and it's funny because a lot of times you ask farmers that all they've done was black cows and they tell you how ridiculous it is to do anything but that. And then we talk to other people that have, more of a different breed, and they tell you, wow, that's the best breed for this area and blah, blah, blah. And so, and it may be for them, and maybe one breed's not for somebody else just because they don't want to deal with that, or they don't want to deal with horns on a Longhorn. I don't know. But anyway, we're diving in, and we're going to do what the best product is, the end game,
Yeah, I think it's important to say honesty is extremely important with our operation. We're going to be as honest as we're going to be honest and say if something has been had antibiotics.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna make sure that like we're not hiding anything from the customer or anything like that, because we wouldn't want that to happen to us.
No.
Right? I mean, it's the whole, do what you would want someone to do for you.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to be honest about that. And I had another thought that was actually really it's coming to me. Oh, there it is. Dude, I'm getting older. I think one of the challenges that just bringing cows on property for yourself versus bringing cows on property to sell to friends, family, customers is what sells. And that's where you get a little bit into kind of like what you were just talking about was Longhorns, black versus black Angus and whatever, like what sells in our area.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when we first started talking, it was all talk, and it was, dude, I'd love to do Longhorn.
I've always been passionate about
I don't think
reason.
there's many people selling Longhorn in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And then my response to that is, I'm sure there's a reason for that. And so when you're getting into selling, instead of just producing for yourself, you do have to look at what's selling in the area. Why isn't it selling in the area? Is it supply and demand? Is it the fact that people have tried that in the past? It's not what they want. Like, what's going on with that? So, our full operation isn't going to be Longhorn at the get-go,
right?
But maybe we're going to dive into discovering more. It's because people aren't doing it in the area. People would love it, or it just doesn't sell in our area. So I think learning your customer base is very key.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, being honest with ourselves of staying true to our product. I mean, that's another side to what we're trying to do. Because first and foremost, we started this with providing for our family, the type of meat that our family would want to eat. And we're going to keep that in mind out through the whole process. That doesn't mean that we're not open-minded, but there's going to be some shifts, some changes as we go. And I hadn't really talked about sheep. I haven't really. We've
already changed that breed that we're going to run on those.
Yeah, there's another breed, to be honest. What I was looking at. That was kind of a popular thing that was from a lady on YouTube that I watched her whole process, and it looks amazing on what she's doing and how she's producing a product. However, we've already talked a little bit about changing out like what type of sheep we would do just for more easier care. but we hadn't really talked much about sheep, but now we're talking more about that as well. So we went from talking about cow to talking about pig and bringing pig on, and then looking at cows and then sheep. And I had already said this, like, I would love for our operation to be four meats: chicken, pig, lamb, and cow. And kind of focus more on that. I mean, we're not really into the agricultural side of, like, with, corn and wheat and all of that.
I don't know that. I mean, I'm sure it would, but the dirt here don't permit that either. So it's not the best agriculture dirt for gardening, but our crops. But it'll grow grass, so that's what
It'll grow grass, and we did do a little garden that we didn't, because of the lack of water, really, I think, and the lack of care on that garden, it didn't produce what we wanted to, and it had nothing to do with the soil it was in. I don't think
we did it in a good spot. It was good soil there.
It was just lack of care on that, and really, it was late.
It's been a difficult year, even in our home garden, small garden. It's been work. This year with that heat and drought we had.
We didn't get much corn at our property either. So I mean, anyway, just talking about letting you see the property. Number one, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, sitting out here right now, I'm not hot.
No,
I feel great. And John and I have talked multiple times of, like, just walking out here and just listening to the birds chirp. While you were talking earlier, the camera didn't pick this up, but there was a little hummingbird that stopped, like, right behind you and, like, stopped mid-air. And it was pretty sweet. But
that's cool.
It's beautiful out here. And you and I have talked about how, like, right now we're just both excited about the future and how our farm is coming together. Even just the memories, already alone, the memories of, looking past this camera into, what'd you call it earlier?
The Boris Battleground.
Boris Battleground. Like we're naming different parts of the property based off of, like, just our experiences.
And we say that because he would go to here and we'd chase him around, try to funnel him back to where he needed to go.
This would be his go-to spot of, like, if he wasn't in his little mud pit, he would come over here. But the stories alone. And, we'll come to an end right here. But one thing that we haven't ever talked about was our farm name.
Yeah.
We never really talked about that. We never, really, when we started this podcast, we didn't have a farm name per se.
Right. We hadn't settled on one.
Yeah. And it really wasn't that important to us. We just called it the farm. But, we landed on a name. What's the name, John?
HD Farms.
HD Farms. Why HD Farms?
Hutchins and Dunford.
Yeah.
Our last names.
Our last names. We've never talked about our last names on here either. But, it's our last names. It just makes sense for us to make it something simple. HD.
We wanted something that was together, but not, something quick that was neat to put on some swag in the future if you guys want it. And, we'll do some.
Your hat that you're wearing right now, HD Farms, love that hat. Gonna have to get another one. But, okay, real quick, side note. Side note about that. We did, but listen to this. So, I picked my son up from school yesterday. And I put on the podcast, weirdly enough, because I was on Spotify and I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to the podcast. Well, I was listening to the part where I'm talking about losing the hat. And my 10-year-old son is in the back and he goes, because I had said my wife, told me I couldn't buy another one. And my son, he said, that doesn't make sense. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I broke Mommy's glass cup the other day, and she turned around and bought a new one. I said, I immediately paused the podcast. I looked at him. I said, you are so smart. You are clever. I called my wife right away, told her, I said, our son is so smart because this is what he said. I'm buying a new hat. But yeah, HD Farms. We'll be having a website up soon because we are moving into an area where, as we are bringing more on, becomes the opportunity more of quicker to consumer on products and stuff like that. So we want to go ahead and make that available. So we're working on a website to be able to get that up and going as well, allowing you guys to go ahead and put in deposits down on some pork coming up early next year. And as we get cows, who knows how quick we can get those going, and sheep as well. But yeah, a lot of really cool things, exciting right now. Yeah. Like this summer was, focus on the family, focus on trips, focus on different things, and now it's let's get to work.
Yeah, it was managing what we have here. Trying to keep the grass mowed has been somewhat of a challenge, but we did have that drought, so that helped a lot. We had a period there where nothing was growing, so that helped. So yeah, it's been a good summer. I feel like this little cold snap for a week or fall feeling kind of
refreshing.
And it was a tap on the shoulder, like, hey, fall's coming. You better start getting your stuff in a row, because this was our goal. We were like, hey, we want to have fence up by fall and have some cattle on it. Now, I don't, that's our goal. I'm not promising that it's going to happen, because a lot of it due to the market too. But the fence will be up.
Yeah.
And we're going to work our darndest to get some cattle on property, get some more hoofs on ground here. So I'm excited for that. That's getting into we've been doing a lot of the dirty work and frustrating work. We've had the pigs, and that's been great. But it's doing a lot of research, a lot. I mean, it's kind of like the fall. It feels like everything's going to come together here at the fall, and then we're really going to hit the ground running here this winter.
And it's like, it's the fall. Like, I remember you even saying that in the fall, and I'm like, bro, it is here. Like it's time. So we're going to be putting in a lot of work. Here's another thing. Every time we close out, I always have a lot more thoughts that I had, but no one really talks. That's not true. Not a lot talk about the equity put in at the beginning. And that's what I love about this podcast, is it's allowing you to see the full process, that we know that we're going to get to that end goal. We know that. Like, we're too driven not to get there. But a lot of people don't talk about the equity that you have to put in at the very beginning. No one talks that it's going to be potentially a year before you even have a product. No one talks about the struggles of looking at a piece of grass and not realizing it's the right or wrong grass.
Yeah.
No one's really talking about those small little things. And hopefully, if you've got a homestead, or you've got a farm that you're wanting to start, or maybe you're just entertained by us, hopefully you are learning some things that along the way that, you might be sitting there and you've been farming for so many years and be like, man, these guys didn't know that. Hey, we're coming in brand new to a lot of different things. Even though you've farmed before at your house, our goal is to be a lot different than what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I never settle and never get complacent. We always want to look if there's a better option, and no matter if our grandparents did it or whatever. So we're not mimicking what our neighbor's doing. We're doing research. We're trying to see, will this work? Will that work? And part of our slogan is, let's grow together.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to start this podcast early. And there's sometimes we'll contradict. We may have said something in episode 1 that you're like, man, you said this in episode 1, and now you're saying you're doing this or that or whatever. That's because we're growing together. We're going through a process. Because like Brandon said, we have tried to educate ourselves, and everybody is starting to, here's how I do it. Well, where were your fails? What nobody ever gets into anything and does it perfect. But there wasn't a lot out there that you could go from nothing to where they're at. It was like, here's where I'm at, and we wanted people to grow with us, so let's grow together.
Yeah, I think if I come from the ministry world, and if I'm sitting here in a church that has 1,000 people, you're going to talk more about the fact that where you are now versus the fact that you started maybe with a church split, and it was unhealthy, and hey, you started in a living room with 12 people and you grew to 1,000. A lot of people care more about the goal where they're at versus, hey, we want to show you how the hard work, like what you have to put in at the very beginning of it.
Absolutely.
And growing, learning, you can have all the book knowledge. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can watch all the videos. But until you've got a trailer that's open for a week and you've tried your darndest to get this, now that we know, almost 700-pound pig into the trailer, you can read all day. Hey, do this, do that, do that. Until you're doing it and you're feeling that frustration and all that stuff, you don't know.
No.
You don't know. You don't know that how smart pigs are. You can hear all day long someone say, pigs are smart. Pigs are smart. But until you see that little thing that pig just did, and you're like, that pig remembers.
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, like, until you actually get your hands on it and it becomes something tangible, because there is something different between a head knowledge versus something that's tangible that you're actually touching, you're experiencing, that you're feeling. When you see those things and you're experiencing those things, things change. You can have in your mind this idea of what you want to do, and then when you get into it and reality sets in about money, reality sets in about time, reality sets in about barriers that are around you. When that happens, you have to change. So to go to your point of, we might have said something, and we're not trying to cover anything up, but we might have said something at the beginning. We would never do this. I don't think we ever did that. But if we did, it's because we're coming from the head knowledge, not from the actual experience of, and you obviously have had experience in the past with yourself. For me, I'm coming in blind on a lot of different things. I'm coming in more with, man, I'm going to have to read, watch, listen to a bunch of things to get the head knowledge. And I'm willing to put the equity in. I'm willing to get dirty with the pigs, with the cows, with the sheep, with whatever, with the property. And I think that's what's important, is, are you willing to do it? And some get into it realizing, I'm not willing to do it. I thought I could, but I couldn't. But, that's what I love about this, is we're wanting to show you the conversations that we're having, because there's multiple times that we'll be talking and I'm like, let's not talk about this, because I want to talk about the podcast, because I want to hear your raw thoughts about it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And if you've got a spouse or a partner that you can farm with too, it would be great, because, there's times where I've told you, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work, and you pick me up, and vice versa, and my wife has, just last night where I was like, there's so much to do. I just don't know if and she's like, you'll be fine. Just, you always need people around you to encourage you to stay with it. And this is not easy. This is frustrating. You were talking about trying to get that pig in there, and people would probably, people were like, oh, you got to corral him. We did. We did it. We brought corrals over and had him funneled in, and he just
get a prod. Just prod him in the. Oh, you did. Yeah. He turned around and he ran at you. You almost broke the prod.
Yeah, the prod was not effective on him. He was way stronger.
Put food in the trailer. Put food in the trailer.
But we did figure.
We did.
Yeah, and and it's frustrating. You get him in there, and then we didn't, like, Jennifer got him in there, and we didn't get to the gate in time, and get it shut on him. So he got right back up when he seen us. And so, like, you were talking about his memory, like, she could walk him all over the place. And he followed Lindsay around here picking blackberries that one day. The neighbors seen her.
I love that.
But now he wouldn't have nothing to do with me. But I'd been the one in the woods, like, flushing him back out, like chasing him and jumping in front of him and rah, and trying to, force him to come back this way. And all it took was Jennifer with some Twinkies and talking sweet to him. So
I like this. I like us doing it out here.
That's nice.
It feels great. It allows you guys to see.
We may do a couple out here, and then it'll be too cold. So
yeah, we might bring a guest on with us, aka one of the ladies.
Yeah,
just have her sit right here. Scratch her.
One of the pig ladies.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think they would stay there that long.
No, they'll go find an area to wallow in, stuff like that. But hey, hopefully this was educational. I think it was, because it was educational, even just us flushing and talking out some of the things. But thank you so much. Make sure you do go to our our socials and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get better with our trips being gone, trying to get better looking at our social medias and looking for those comments. We're excited to hear from you. So get on there and give us a shout.
Yeah.
Even just to click, say hi. We like any of that. So keeps us going.
It does.
Like somebody's listening to us, so we'll keep doing it.
Once again, if this is more for us to listen back to, it'd be like, that's a good reason to keep doing it for me, is to look back and listen to
like
either
an archive.
There you go, an archive. So once again, hey, thank you so much for listening to the Local Farmer Podcast.